we were playing around with an exercise where we would go here and then throw. And this one kid, he's coming back and he's throwing the ball like this way. And that was almost exactly what he was doing in the circle when he was throwing shot. His left would be super late. Then everything's dumping to his left side. He's falling basically. So when we're doing the medicine ball drill, it's almost like a crow hop for a baseball player. We're jumping here and then throwing, and he started to figure out how to get his left down a little quicker. And this reaction to the load here is very similar to when you're grounding in the middle of the circle. Wayne asked me to talk about rotational exercises, and I've got way too many movements that are absolutely insane. So I have a lot to share with you as far as just like actual exercises. There's a couple reasons, or if we think back to the first presentation yesterday, if you were here, where I talked about rotational technique, and even in the glide discussion, thinking about angular momentum and what that means for the thrower. And if we can think about in a rotation, right, we want to get a wide right and come off of that left, and that left is going to be the linear momentum, that right sweeping is going to be that angular momentum, and that's how we throw farther. And the separation that we have with our shoulder to our hips, that's going to increase that rotational velocity of the torso and of your pelvis. And I think that if we think about that, that's where all of these exercises that I'm going to show you sort of come into play. It's like I try to think about how is this going to apply to the throw. A lot of these exercises to a point emulate the throw, but a lot of the different ways that I program them are based off of trying to get the athlete to be more stable in different positions. And trying to feel positions almost while they're doing these exercises that they would feel when they're doing the actual throw. And so you're going to see basically like a static side exercise. So this could be like a static foot position here, right? And we're just holding this. Okay, you're going to see a neutral stance rotation. So actually, I'm sorry, the neutral stance rotation is what I just showed you. A static side one would be, you might see things where we go like this, okay, and we just turn and press, and it's a little bit slower tempo. The neutral stance rotation is what I just showed you. Split stance would be where we're in this position and we might be jumping or rotating with something. And then split stance rotational with jumps is going to be jumping with a box or with any other object, where you'll see us going over hurdles or bumper plates and things like that. So you're going to see mobility exercises, ab exercises, plyometric exercises, pretty much everything. And I think, just showing Loveland again here is like making sure that it does have some transfer to the throw, and you need to have some control in your abs and in your hips to be able to handle the speed of the throw. Now, why are these exercises important? I think one, you're going to see mobility awareness. Actually, when I just went like this and pressed, I could feel my upper back crack, okay? So as I've gotten older, a couple of these movements, I will feel like, oh wow, I'm a lot tighter from one side to the other. And if I feel that, that's something that I need to be aware of, but also our throwers, it's cueing them on these things. Okay, it's getting them to have more balance, and if they have more balance on the left, and then they have more balance on the right, they're going to be more balanced on that finish. So if we have balance, if we're more stable in a position, we can have more speed applied in that position because of that. So that has a direct impact on the finish. One thing I wanted to bring up with this is that none of these movements replace the big exercises. Okay, at the end of the day, we're snatching or cleaning, we're back squatting, we're front squatting, we're doing single leg squats, we're benching a lot. None of these exercises replace those movements. Those are the movements that are like the end all be all. These are the movements that are just like the extra spice on top that get you a little bit more buy-in. And I think it's important because, and I'm guilty of this, is like these are the movements that you'll see on Instagram and you're like, wow, these are cool exercises. This might get me to PR. And it's not. Add 100 pounds to your back squat, add 100 pounds to your bench, that's gonna get you to PR. These are movements that are cool, but they're not like the get rich quick exercise that everybody sort of thinks. Now, they are still fun to do though, and I think it's important that we do have these factored in. And so when we're thinking about why we need these movements, why we need rotational exercises, I do think about core strength, and there's a term dynamic trunk control. And what I think about with that is like, I always use this example of a wide receiver. If a wide receiver is running to make a cut and they plant here to run this way, if they didn't have that trunk control here when they sink in with their hips, they would come forward and they wouldn't be able to brace and decelerate as quickly as possible to get out of that cut. So that trunk control, it's similar to like a baseball player or wide receiver running and catching, and that's really the middle position of the throw, is that we've got to have that trunk control so that we're not collapsing in the middle. So that's what we're trying to train here, okay? That's going to help us hold positions. And if we hold positions with that stability, as I mentioned, you're going to have more speed. The stable trunk helps you apply more force into that implement, and then we're going to see an increase in mobility, which is one of those key principles that we talked about, being explosive, having strength, and increasing mobility. And then finally, there's an example. Okay, if you are in the sprint world, you might hear people say you want ankle stiffness. The stiffer my ankle is, within reason, the stiffer my ankle is, the more force I can apply into the ground. The more force I apply into the ground, the faster I will run. It's the same thing with a boxer. Okay, when a boxer punches with a stiff wrist, if they had a loose wrist, you wouldn't hurt somebody as much. Okay, and I think about the stiffness, the stability is the whole, your stomach, your abs, your erectors, your back, and even to a point your glutes. So I think about the trunk the way that boxers think about their wrists, the way that sprinters think about their ankles. So I do think it's important to train that. So these are some crazy exercises that you'll see. And what I had problems yesterday. I talked about this a little earlier. These would not load yesterday, and they wouldn't load this morning. So I took all of the GIFs, so these are known as GIFs if you don't know. I took all of these images and I just loaded them into YouTube videos. So we have like 6 YouTube videos that we're going to look at because I couldn't get them to play with the internet yesterday. But these are advanced exercises, okay? And I think that when you're doing these movements and you're getting kids to do these movements, it's like trying to find something that might be a little easier, to start with. And if we're starting here and the kids aren't falling over, you can start to get a little bit more risky with the movements as the season progresses, but it's really like, let's start simple and build off of that. And that's what we're going to do as we go through this, is we'll get into a couple of these things and you'll see these different exercises, but really it's like start easy, like easy movements first. Let's say outdoor track starts in March. Every day or every other day you can do a plate twist, just standing. Real simple rotational movement, okay? And then as that preparation period goes and they start to build more range of motion, well, now you can take this movement with a plate and maybe you turn that into a walking plate exercise, okay? And then as they get closer to a peak, maybe now we can add in the jump, okay? And then once they're starting to peak, now you can add in a throw off of that. So it's like really try to think through the movement and the season as like start easy. Okay, make sure the kid can be prepared. Start in that general range and then build through these dynamic ones over time, and then try and find the exercises that have higher speed when they're starting to peak. And I will show you guys a lot of the movements, a lot of the simple movements that we do on a daily basis for mobility versus more of the advanced exercises. This movement itself, actually, if you have a back extension or Roman chair, is really good for throwers that have groin issues and lower back issues. It also just loosens up your back. I should do that right now. Okay, and some of these movements are going to be exercises that so this would be almost like a great exercise for the discus throw. I do think this is also just a good movement all of us could be doing regularly to help with our posture. But some of these exercises will resemble the throw, right? And so even here, this is like a special strength movement that you guys could put on the day, on the program, in the workout. Like, hey, group number 3, this is the drop off the box shot drill. You got the band attached to the chain link fence. You have a little plate set up. You drop down and you hit a little punch there. And then you got to try and hold an isometric on the finish. You know, what Lucas is hitting here and coming back, you could add in, hold that isometric for 5 seconds. And that's going to be a nice throw that you can use. And you could even do this, you know, Lucas is a glider, so he's doing that with a glide. You can drop off and even do like a half turn. Okay, so it's just getting creative and letting your mind sort of play around with a lot of ridiculous movements. Now, this is another move. This is pretty simple movement. I think I stole this from a boxer. But this is where, you know, decline bench. Mason had to hold me down because the bench was changing, but we have even done movements like this with a band. And this is a movement that we will see later that I would use possibly close to a peak. Especially if I banded it up, I could put a band around the bottom and really try and hit that with more speed. And this is an exercise where I like the way my hips are in that position because it's almost sort of similar to the finish. So this is sort of what we're going to be getting into. Okay, now these are going to be like the first group here. And if you guys have, when we watch this, I'm going to try and talk through the exercises. I'm going to try and pause the video. We'll discuss it. And if you have questions or you want me to replay it, just tell me. I have zero issue replaying it and going back over. Okay, so this would be, probably just going to talk this whole time, right? This first exercise is everything that you guys should be doing this one every morning when you guys wake up. Okay, get into like this scorpion position, which I'm a little tight in this right hip. Okay, ideally you'd be here and just try and feel opening up. And this is a movement I think the throwers should be doing every day at the beginning of their session. They will feel if they're sore, if they're a little tight, and then you get them to try and do this mobility work. Tell the distance runner or the distance head coach that you're gonna take care of everything and you're gonna set this up. This exercise is freaking awesome for the upper back, for everybody. Let's see. So it's usually like you might do 4 sets of 9 swipes to each side. And you can even get this to be a partner stretch possibly where somebody pushes down on the knee and then you're going to feel that lower back as well. I'm pretty tight to my right side. I don't know why, but it's like I'm always tighter back to my right side. And I don't know if that has something to do with throwing. But this is a good movement to do slowly, work through those positions and really try to feel it. And then it's like, okay, try to feel this in the circle. This is another one. This is like a pec stretch, okay? So if you notice here, I'm getting a pec stretch on, this is an elevated bench. So you could, if you have a standard dumbbell bench, you could elevate it on some plates or boxes. It's a pec stretch with that upper back rotation. Really good for anybody who's a little bit tighter in their pec, or if you have a big bench session coming up, this is a good one. But also just great for throwers. And then Lucas, I think, was talking trash, so we don't have any audio on these. And this is awesome for weight throw. Good, and I even would put this as a good stability movement for any thrower. You can do this with a plate or a kettlebell or a dumbbell as long as it's not hitting the back of your head and you're able to get a little bit more stretch there. And then this is another one of these movements that I think if you're a thrower, anybody here, right? Like it's just getting here and then having balance. And we've talked about, I've talked about balance a lot at each position. And if you think about being balanced, these drills alone can help athletes find that feeling that you're trying to get them to have, okay, in each position. This one is freaking awesome. It's similar to the first one, but I think just pausing in that position does help. And having that band helps you feel like, okay, I'm a little bit tighter on one side versus the other. I feel this a little bit more in my hip. And try and cue, if you have somebody who's a right-handed thrower, as they're rotating, try and cue, like dig your foot down, almost like you're rotating your right foot on the finish. You're feeling that left side. This would be a little bit more advanced, but another one where you're going to find some really good stability through the foot. And again, it's like, look at how much my foot is shaking. And then you want to switch to each side and just keep that moving. This is a really good, a little bit more dynamic with the core. So again, those other movements would be the mobility exercises that we would start the session off with. Let me go back to this one. This movement specifically, I would put as one of those side exercises in the session where we would be, having different spots, like different groups doing movements. One group's throwing, one group's doing this type of core work, another group's doing skips and plyometrics. And even notice the shot putter in the back there. So he's a D3 guy. Just watching him do that split jerk, it's like everything that we're trying to do is to get kids comfortable in the split position, so that they're able to apply as much force as possible. And then this one here is another great one to just help kids start to loosen up, especially when they come to practice. It's like they've been sitting at school all day, their lower back might be a little bit stiff, their hamstrings are a little bit tight. Lean forward a little bit, rotate and press, but take it easy. This is where, do this all of March. You do these movements all of March as you prep for the season, and then once you get into April, now we can get a little bit more advanced, a little bit more intense per se for the next round. Does anybody have any questions about that first group? Or thoughts or questions, anything? Does anybody want to stand up and try some? Come on. Okay, some of these might repeat. I was yelling at my phone all morning trying to fix the presentation. Okay, so this would be another one of those. This I would say I would put into an upper body day. If you recall back to building out workouts and the champion speech as well, this would be an accessory exercise. I typically would put this at like 3A as an exercise and try and build this up. This is a fun one though. Does anybody know the artist that my shirt is from? I'll be very impressed. Come on. Anybody ever hear of Keith Haring? That's who it's from. He's from right near the gym, so it's like a little homage there. Okay, so this is another one where you can see the rotation. I'm a little tighter this way towards my right side. And I think even holding that split position too, again, it can be beneficial. And you try and just get a little bit deeper. But the thing I like about these movements, now this is a variation of the press. Here, this next one, I'm almost like rotating with it. When you're doing slower movements with a press, they're just getting that extra range. The thing is, if you get a high school kid who has terrible mobility and then you start getting them to do like hard jumps that he's rotating or she's rotating on, it can lead, they might be like, yo, that hurt my back. So take it slow in the beginning with this stuff. So this is a little bit more dynamic, a little bit quicker with the rotation, but it's still like trying to get them to feel their hip, feel the pressure through the foot. I just realized Alden's in the back doing jerks again. That's funny. This is another one where nice like back cramp on it. And I think the thing too is like when the high school kids are doing these, they like doing them also as warm-ups. It's like they feel, it's just a little different, it's a little bit out of the box. This would be back extension. Again, if you have this, you can usually find these on Facebook Marketplace for about $200. Like the back, it might show up as like back extension or Roman chair. Now this is where I get a little bit more advanced. Now, when I'm thinking about laying out the season, this movement would be, so this is a jump with a pause. I would do this about like 6 to 8 weeks prior to a peak. So it's a little, it's advanced, but it's not crazy advanced. And the one big thing that we do on site is that when we have kids doing this, if they're like hopping all over, they don't get to progress to the next level. They've got to pause and hold it. Pause and hold it, okay? So it's like making sure there's some standard to it. This one I stole directly from Ryan Krauser. Krauser walking lunges. This would be, again, 3A, one of the accessories of a leg day. These are ridiculous ones I just sort of made up as I was playing around with this stuff. I don't think that you need to do this one. This is more traditional, like an alternating V-up. Our wrestlers will do this. Weightlifters, sprinters do this. Okay, this is a movement that I will use quite a bit if I've got a thrower that has lower back issues. Okay, thrower with lower back issues, let's back off of any compression so they're not going to back squat as much. They might do more goblet squats. Let's take this easy and then slowly build up over time. Typically, like if you have somebody go to a doctor and the doctor says, oh, his piriformis is tight, that's a lift that helps quite a bit. This one's horrible. This one is good for me because I've done way too many sets of benching in my life. It's really good for kids with a tight upper back. But again, I'd recommend doing this standing first before getting more advanced in squatting. And make sure that they have good ankle mobility and hip mobility. Okay, this I wanted to piece in here because this is another example of a great like hip airplane type movement that could be in the beginning of a mobility series. Like the warm-up, almost the warm-up here. And again, pausing at the top, holding that rotation, being able to squeeze and decelerate. Okay. And you could do this both ways. You could have the leg a little bit different. Sometimes we'll even put the arm on the band. But you'll feel that a bit in the lower back and your glutes and your hamstrings. Same with this movement, another one that's a lot of the hamstring, but also sort of like a suitcase RDL or a suitcase if you've ever done like a farmer's carry, very similar to a farmer's carry to help build up just the side. And if you have an athlete that's coming back from a groin injury, this is a great one. Because now they're feeling their groin get lengthened with some rotation on it, and they have to have some stability there. They might get a little cramp in their butt when they're doing that. And this is another band. This is similar to the one I did on the decline. The band is attached below me. And this is where I think too, you can even, you could do this standing with a band behind you, almost like a Pallof press. It does require some coordination.
Throwing square bills on the wagon.
Yeah, that's probably the number one best way. And I think that's the one thing, that's a very good point, is that so I always think about what is farm strength. Farm strength is like you got a kid that comes in that grew up, so I grew up working on a turkey farm. I still to this day, from grabbing turkeys for so long, I have a pretty freaking good grip. And people, when I'm clowning around with them, they'll be like, dude, your grip's crazy. Well, I grew up when I was 10 to 12 years old grabbing turkeys that didn't want to die, that had to die. And the thing here is, we don't have as many farms, right? So we're not throwing hay bales as much. We might not be shoveling snow or rocks or whatever it might be as much. We might not be throwing the tires as much. These are movements literally to replace those exercises, those different things, and to try and build that up over time. And that's a great point, is it's like, that is literally, that farm strength is where you can get this. Now, the thing I will say is that if we get a kid who has a big back squat or a big front squat or a big bench, whatever it might be, and they get good at these and they have good stability, now they use the bench better. So oftentimes you might get a power lifter who sort of walks in and they're a kid that can deadlift 500 pounds or back squat 500 pounds, but then they're throwing 35 feet. You're like, how is he this strong? Sometimes those kids You just give them some of these movements and you give them some plyometrics, and all of a sudden their shot just takes off, because now they're feeling how to not be so rigid all the time. They're starting to be a little bit more fluid and more dynamic, and that's when you're going to see, like, these athletes, they do have something in there, okay? Not all powerlifters are immobile. Some of them can move. So these are almost like a little cheat code for powerlifters. But you can get kids then in the weight room, as their weights go up and they get better at these, everything sort of gets taken care of. Any questions on those specific ones there? I forget if it was this one. Anybody have any thoughts? Because now we're getting into a little bit more like plate and rotating specific ones.
Kind of like your imagination. What can I
Exactly. And I think that's the thing, like when if you remember the last presentation when I was throwing the rocks and stuff, when I trained with Dr. B would say, look, there's things that you have to do creating a thrower. You got to throw. You got to have a technical model. You probably should throw with a heavy or a light shot here and there. These are things we got to do. And then you got to squat, clean, whatever, bench. You got to do these things. But part of throwing is getting creative. One, it helps keep the kids interested. But then two, you might find one kid feels something different. And so we have an exercise where we'll go, so if I have like a wall here, right? And we're doing side medicine ball throws here, and it bounces off, and you catch it, and you come back, and you throw it again. Well, that's one movement. We were playing around with an exercise where we would go here and then throw. And this one kid, he's coming back, and he's throwing the ball like this way. And that was almost exactly what he was doing in the circle when he was throwing shot. His left would be super late, then everything's dumping to his left side, he's falling basically. So when we're doing the medicine ball drill, it's almost like a crow hop for a baseball player. We're jumping here and then throwing, and he started to figure out how to get his left down a little quicker. And this reaction to the load here is very similar to when you're grounding in the middle of the circle. All of a sudden, within about a week, he's like, I'm feeling that stretch here getting into my left on the finish. I didn't teach him anything. He figured it out himself. So it's like, it's a way for your body to learn without really being instructed on it. That's where as a coach, it's like, yo, just let them do it and they'll figure it out themselves too. Okay, so some of these are gonna be more.
Good question. So
yep.
On your exercise, so we're generalizing kids, right?
Yep.
Everybody's doing these. Bigger kids that need twitch, because you know their families, I mean, we're small towns.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like dad didn't have speed, you don't have speed.
Yeah.
Should they be using lighter implements? Should they work on time? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you teach twitch?
Yeah, I think there's a art to this where it's like some kids when they don't have it. I feel like this is a YouTube video title. I'm gonna write this down. How do you teach twitch? Yeah. So it's like the problem with using a light implement with those athletes is they don't feel it. Yeah, they're dead. Yeah, they're just like I don't feel it. So you want to play it. I would go slowly. The goal is they're in this block spectrum over here where they're just stiff and they don't have that quick reaction, right? So there's literally, in physiology, there's something known as twitch force. So how much electrical stimulation is going through their body to recruit really quickly? They lack that. So I would go slowly with, let's say, a moderate weight. Let's do it for 4 weeks. And then you go into the jump slowly, and then you decrease the weight so it's a little faster. The thing that I've always felt like with this archetype of athlete is that it takes a long time. It might take 3 or 4 months. We have a powerlifter right now. His name's Ståhl Kyle, and he's crazy. He's back. This kid's pulled 750 for a double, and he's not on drugs. He's an animal. When he first started training with us, he didn't have it. He would grind everything, and we spent about 1.5 years doing jumps. And these kids, and this is the thing I would tell you, is they're the kids that, so when you jump, this is how you do an arm swing. Okay? That's what normal people who have some athletic talent do. These kids that we're talking about, they go like this. They go, they don't swing, they don't coordinate. So it's like little things like that of like, hey, yeah, let's use your arms a little more on the jump. Just like when we throw. So now they start to figure out how to use their arm as a counterbalance, then use their arm as a counterbalance and to add momentum. And I think that's where, to go back to the beginning of the question to answer, I would say start moderate, get them, maybe they do a twist with a moderate weight, and then you get them to throw into the wall. And then you go, a lighter weight, and it's just like a game back and forth. Those kids, I think, need the same movements longer because they need time to learn. I think when I think about athletes, I think about intelligence, okay? So my sister and my brother both scored higher on the SATs when they were in 7th grade than I did when I was a senior in high school. Like, they just had it. Like, they're a lot smarter. So for me, I look at that, that's how I see the time horizon for an athlete. My brother and my sister, I eventually could learn. It just takes me a lot longer to learn. But that's how these guys are coordinated. It's like, well, you got the kid over here that learns in a week. Well, this kid might take 6 months. And as a coach, you just gotta be patient with them. So.
You talk about fast twitch and developing that. So my son-in-law has his little ones playing baseball and pitching to learn to strike with the arm strike, because I know in our world we see kids that look good, they just don't have this, it's just like slow motion.
Yeah.
It just doesn't do that. And I will wait to see, but as he gets older, I mean, they're kind of pre-training to be a pro.
Right.
It's in their tree logo.
Yeah. Yeah, and that goes back to the discussion I was saying yesterday with Lincoln, my oldest son, is like and I took this from a short conversation with Krauser's dad, and it was like, okay, if Lincoln's lifting weights, he has the strength, I'm just going to have him throw an 8-pound shot. And if he throws the 8 and the 4K, does he really need to throw the 12 yet? I want to get him to throw 70 feet with a 4K while he's in middle school. Okay, well, let's see what happens. And to your point, that has paid off, where I think when you do have them throw lighter, the only thing I'll say to the kid who is not as privileged in that situation that their parents weren't thinking about them becoming a thrower, I think the light implement short term is hard for them to feel it. So they might get frustrated, they might open their left shoulder a little bit more. For the stiff farm kid, we'll call that athlete.
I can tell you this here, John Powell trained a kid, I knew him pretty well. He trained a girl that was from Illinois that went when he was in Vegas. And he said, I thought she was a sprinter, and I thought she was very girl, and she ran fast. He said, I put a 1K, and let's see if we can throw 100 feet. And he got like to 95 feet, and then he put a 4K in there, and it went like 60. And she transferred back because of a boyfriend back to Illinois. And they just put her money and I'd take 60 in a heartbeat for a woman.
Right.
NCAAs and Big Tens.
Yeah, win.
And they just took her back and just let her sprint and didn't even have her throw.
Right.
He said it was one of the failures of my part, got to keep her out.
Throwing.
That's kind of like Roberta Collins.
Yes.
Joe and I used to talk all the time. She's got a 500-pound bench. I've seen her pick up guys in helicopter and just laugh,
Yeah.
The discus was too light for her. That 1K, we both felt it. She had a heavier disc. She'd throw it a lot farther.
Right. And that's the thing too, is I think in this case there is a point of diminishing returns with some athletes that tends to be lower. There's someone like Joe Kovacs though too, who is so strong, but that's just the way he's wired. Not only is he strong, crazy strength-wise, he also has the twitch, which is why he's the second greatest shot putter of all time. Like, that's a different breed. There's a lot more of the two strongs, and that's where these movements I think will come in. And I would just say skips, plyos, the rotational stuff that you'll see here on this one, more clap push-ups, jump lunges kill those kids. you put a kid in a split position, and I know I mentioned this a little bit yesterday, but when you go backwards, okay, or you jump and you rotate, it can confuse people quickly, like very quickly, and it takes them a lot of time. And that's where I would say these movements will pay off for that kid specifically. Okay, so these are going to be more of the ab and more rotating stuff. There will be some jumps in here though. This is an exercise I think, something I showed earlier too. It's pretty simple, but also a good one. This is, if you notice, I'm going pretty easy here. I'm not going crazy, crazy hard. This is where I would start, just nice and easy through the motion. And then you could work a little bit more in that split position. I'm a big fan here of just a heavier rotating or lighter. That's a 20K. This one's going to be like a building high twist. This is where you've got to be aware of like lower back issues. But also when they go down, kids sometimes will fall backwards. So it'd be like me falling towards the dumbbell rack. This is a movement you're gonna see the actual person who showed me this. Has anyone ever seen this one? I would say this is the exercise. So last year at the Prefontaine, we were training with Daniel Ståhl during the training block. And Daniel, I was like, yo, what's the best thing that you do? And he's like, this exercise solved my groin issues, and I do it every single day for 3 sets of 8. And he's like, I haven't stopped. It's like 3-4 years now that he's been doing this. This is a movement that like our high school kids, when they first started doing it, they're like, oh my God, it hurts my hips, it hurts my abs, it hurts my upper back. And after about 6 weeks now, and we're going on like month 6, everybody is still doing this. And I think that, and I have a video of Daniel doing it, so you'll be able to see him doing it. But it's a nice and controlled, good position where you can get good rotation, and that can be, increase your mobility. And I'll even do it without the plate here, so you can see it's like a target. Okay, can I rotate all the way back to if you notice when I go to the one side, I'm tighter. Can I get all the way to the floor? If I'm a little more stiff, it's harder, but you can feel that improve over time. That's me crying, yeah. Okay, so this is, more of a plyo than a core movement, but I would use this for the guy you're talking about. Yeah, where it's like, just set up, it doesn't need to be high. Easy footwork, easy ankle work. I call these box skips. Okay, it's just like boom, boom, boom. And this is a movement that'll take a couple go-arounds. Again, a little bit easier, but I have more weight there. Now you'll see my feet on this one. I think I fall backwards a little bit, and this is where you just got to beat right there. I do. Just be aware with athletes, like maybe lighten the load. I could have lightened the load, go a little bit easier. This is me just being meathead. This is like the old school Yuri Sadiq twists, as heavy as possible. Sometimes going heavier is actually a little easier because you can sit into your heel a little more. I feel like I might have shown this one already, but this is some more. And you're going to see here shortly where I'm doing more walking base as well. This I should have put this in the mobility portion because I think this is a good warm-up, especially at the beginning of a lift. You have a kid who struggles with catching a clean, do this with the clean progressions and they're going to be loosened up and ready to go. Also helps them be more stable with the weight. This is like that lower back exercise with the split. This is a movement too that wrestlers can benefit from, football guys, getting comfortable, getting low, but a little rotation and rounding. And this is a whole series where I sort of build up into a higher swing. And that's only, that's like a 22-pound implement, 22-pound weight. But now you'll see this is more like plyometric stuff. And this is where if we decelerate and hold that middle position of the throw, this exercise transfers to them being able to pause and hold the middle and feeling that position. Same with this one here. Sometimes it confuses me. I don't know if you saw there was a discus thrower in the back. He was doing some exercises and I put a video of him in here because I thought it was cool. Like this guy's one of the best discus throwers doing it. And this is a shorter arm twist, so it's a little faster. So now I'm going back to the stop on like a higher position. This is another one with the farm kid, I think. Yeah. Think about speed skater. You know, that's really good. So this is a rotating step up jump. These are tough as well. And now I start going the split position with a higher twist. Here's Daniel. So this is Daniel doing it. He does this a lot better than me. So he was using like I want to say a 35, and he's like, dude, that might have been like the heaviest he had gone. And that's like that would be like, so Daniel in that session did like a 600-pound triple, the speed triple. He did some clean pulls, and then he did those, the rotations. So that was like his workout. And that's where it's like, literally that's how people, you know, these are the best, one of the best discus throwers ever. You know, so seeing that, it was like, okay, that's a pretty simple exercise. Anybody have any questions about those specifically? When to use them? Oh my gosh, I didn't realize I had more. Okay, that's where I do have more barbell stuff. So it's like, I think that, and I'll walk you through when you know, a movement like this, as we get closer to peaking, I think you can get more dynamic and a little bit more aggressive. This is a 15K bar. This is another way that you could pitch these to your head coach. Like, hey, we're just gonna do easy tempo stuff like this as a warm-up. We're trying to increase their mobility. We're trying to increase their potentiation from their nervous system so they're firing at a higher speed. We want them to increase their core stability. These are exercises that we want to use to warm them up so that then when we get into the circle, they're hitting deeper positions. If they're more mobile and they can catch the shot back or the discus in a better position from these exercises, now they have a longer range of motion. It doesn't need to be super fast, okay? These are all nice and slow, nice and simple. Nothing's too crazy. And I think sometimes the slow ones can be as beneficial as something like this too. Okay, I think we've pretty much seen some of these are replaying.
I got a question.
Yeah.
So I have a brand new freshman girl, about 6 foot, wears 14 men's. She's a Viking. Real big girl, 0 athletic ability. She's not particularly strong. She can move some weight because of her size, but pound for pound, she's not strong.
Right.
So she doesn't move very well. So would you recommend, like, I try to do exercise, like should I try to maybe slim her down a little so she can move quicker off her feet, or should I just go with you know, the Olympic lifts, the hard, you know, the bench, the back squats and all that, and just make her strong from there? Try to lose weight just from doing that alone.
I would talk to her about nutrition or talk to her parents about nutrition first. See if they're open to the discussion.
Okay.
Then
so I can't work her hard as I'd like to.
right, I think even if you said, hey, make sure you're getting a gram of protein per pound of body weight, you know, maybe, you know, make sure that you're getting about 2,500 to 3,000 calories. That's probably enough. Maybe even a little bit less. Like you almost like hint at helping her with that. And then I would say if she has some mobility in her upper back, you get her to clean. And then usually if somebody is how you described, we do a lot of single leg work, single leg squats here. Split position stuff will increase that coordination. And then all of a sudden, if she's doing the cleans and she's doing some simple strength work, you know, you could get away with doing goblet squats or something like that, full range of motion.
Yeah, she's not super low, again, not really, but the size is there.
Right.
I know that I'm going to have to do exercises to try to manufacture an athletic ability.
Right.
But right now, she's so far underdeveloped. Like I didn't know if like the best course is to try to drop weight or just lean into it and go all power strength.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of cases like that, it's literally just getting stronger is the best thing for them. You know, that's like they'll get newbie gains. She might gain confidence from the fact that she's seeing more weight on the bar. You know, maybe she can jump a little bit better, and then she's moving better in the circle. So I think it's like, I would lean into some type of strength movement, and then maybe, this is the discus thrower that was at Worlds, and then maybe you do one of these exercises like every 2 days with her or something. It's like, hey, you know, if you can train 3 days a week, I did want to say this is an exercise I stole right from Matt Denny, who is the second best discus thrower ever. That's a repeat right there. But yeah, for this one. To answer that, I think I would lean into whatever she's strong at to keep her confidence up, communicate with her parents about good nutrition, and if they're willing to listen, you know, discussing that, and then add in one of these more active movements to try and see if you get something out of her, like some type of response.
Try just like bodyweight exercise.
I think bodyweight squats, bodyweight jumps, yeah. I mean, even getting a kid like that, just go, look, squat, jump. Squat, jump. Like, you don't, it's not crazy. It's just getting them to move and do something athletic. And a lot of kids, when they first do it, they'll like this. It's like, no, just go right into it. Nice, like have some type of rhythm. Like be a little bit more fluid. And then you might see some response there.
That's what I was going to ask for. I don't have access to a weight room. I don't have plates. I don't have any of that. So if you could give, and maybe you do have them coming up, just some body weight exercise.
Yeah. So I think even like this, like let's say you have a shot here. Okay, what could we do? We could go here with a shot, right? Okay, I'm just holding a 4K. Okay, this here, I'm here, boom, and I could hold an implement. Okay, I could hold a discus here. I could hold 2 shots that are lighter, and now I'm here with 2 shots. I even think, you know, sometimes we'll go where we go 1, 2, 3, and you throw it. So taking the implements and then using that in replacement is big. But even just, you know, the side one where it's here, like that's another, it's like, all right, if I can come up with 10 of these, no weight, and then add in the implements. Now I just went from 10 to 20. And then you can get creative. And then find a curb, and then you can do the jump step ups on a curb or a chair. Yeah, that's what I was even thinking with the chair. It's like, okay, I can just use a chair and do that. Okay. Oops. Okay. There we go. So the lift would look like this. You go the main lift, the strength lift. So you go, let's say, explosive lift, clean trap bar jump, dumbbell snatch, kettlebell swing, body weight squat and jump. Then here you might see back squat, and then here you go one of the rotational exercises. That's like a real simple way to set it up. And that's almost, as I mentioned with Daniel, with Ståhl. What do you do? He did speed deads, clean pull, and then the rotational movement. Setting up the workout, you go throw. If they don't lift, they have a throw, they can do their drills, they can do rotational exercises, and then you have your note-taking group. This is a 4-group setup right there. Okay, so now everybody's getting that work done by, you got a throwing group, you got a drilling group, you got a rotational group, you got your note-taking area where you're going to be writing down your drills, writing down your cues, and now you're really starting to do all of these things sort of together. And then with the season, I would say always do mobility movements every session. The first one that I was demonstrating, and I was even thinking about the question without any equipment, I can do this here. I don't need any equipment. I just fell over, right? Like, so this is tough. Just standing here, no band, nothing. It's just my body. Like this is a good exercise that we can do that has no load at all. And I would say that should be done on a daily basis, okay? slow build into the rotating exercises, and then you can peak. If you have somebody super committed, that's where you can peak with like the, you know, one of these balls throwing into a wall, or a med ball throwing into a wall, or a band. You know, one of our discus throwers, Sam Mattis, he takes a band and he loves our banded stands where we go here. We'll take 5 of these, and then on the last set, he goes, hold, and he goes, boom, 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 with a band. So those are things that you can do to get a little more creative and feel that position at the front. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so that's the setup. This is a spin course, but if you guys have questions on the rotational stuff and how we set up our training and the exercises, I think it's really just, I wanted to share as many of those with you as I could. Wayne wanted me to talk through that. So I do think they apply to throwing quite a bit, and they can get some of the athletes that tend to be stiffer or bigger to be a little bit more limber. And that's like the one big thing is when we have middle school kids and high school kids, it's getting them to have some rhythm. The rotational exercises will teach them at least a little bit of having rhythm. All right, thanks for having me out here, guys.